All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
Definitely.
Today, we're getting into some pretty dark stuff. We're looking at Horcruxes.
Oh, excellent.
Specifically, there's this fascinating academic paper, exploring the theory behind them, like how they work, how they're made, all that.
Right.
So, those are the spooky soul containers Voldemort was so fond of. And we're going to really unpack this theory and see what it tells us, about his choices, why he did what he did. And, of course, you got to understand why Harry's situation was so unique.
Well, what really grabs you about this theory is how it tries to get at the mechanics of the magic,
Yeah.
It's not just splitting a soul, right? That's too simple. We're looking at the why, the how,
Yeah.
the intent, the emotion, the whole process.
Okay, so I think we're all pretty familiar with the basics here. Making a Horcrux, it involves murder, right?
Right.
But this paper's saying there's more to it than that.
Absolutely.
It's not just the act itself, it's about the why, the intent.
It's all about the intent. What the theory is saying is that the real driver, the fuel behind a Horcrux is that desire to cheat death.
Right.
That deep, desperate need to just keep living, to be immortal. That fuels the magic. And the stronger that desire, the stronger the fragment of soul that gets ripped away.
So it's almost like the magic feeds off that desperation.
That's really good, yeah. It's like you have two wizards, right? Both commit murder. One, it's cold, it's calculated, it's ambition, right?
Okay.
The other, it's a last resort, driven by this terror of death clinging to life.
Oh, wow.
The theory suggests that the soul fragment from that second wizard, it would be much more powerful because of that.
Yeah.
Because of that desperation.
That's pretty dark. So I guess what we're saying is an accidental death, that wouldn't create a Horcrux.
No, you're absolutely right.
Because you don't have that key element. You're not trying to conquer death.
Precisely. You don't have that fuel.
Now, here's where things get even more interesting. The theory, it brings up the vessel, the object that holds the soul fragment. What they're saying is it can't just be any old thing.
Well,
it has to have a real connection to the creator, an emotional connection.
It acts as a conduit. It's almost like an anchor, letting the soul fragment attach to that object.
Oh, okay.
And get this, the strength of that connection, it actually affects how strong the Horcrux is, how hard it is to destroy.
So the stronger the bond, the tougher the Horcrux.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not just about the dark magic, right?
Yeah.
You're putting your own personal meaning into these objects.
So like with the diary, for instance, it wasn't just any random notebook he picked up.
No. That represented him, his younger self.
Yeah.
Hogwarts, a time he looked back on with this twisted nostalgia. Remember, he opened the Chamber of Secrets when he was a student. That diary, it held a lot of power for him emotionally.
In the locket. It was a Slytherin heirloom, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a real link to his past, his family. It represented his ambition, his wanting to be seen as Salazar Slytherin's heir.
He was really picky about the things he chose, wasn't he? Even the cup.
Even the cup, a Hufflepuff artifact.
Ah.
You'd think that's weird because he hated Hufflepuff.
Yeah, that doesn't quite track.
But actually, think about it. It fits.
Yeah.
He wanted power. He wanted control over everything, every part of the wizarding world.
So it's not just about the personal meaning. It's about dominance, like claiming something from each Hogwarts house.
Exactly, like trophies. And then, of course, the diadem. Knowledge, power, the things he craved most.
So each Horcrux, it's like a little window into Voldemort's mind, his values, his fears.
Now, Nagini, that's different. The others, they were all objects from his past. Nagini, she was alive by his side. I think she represented his power in the present, and his vision for the future.
Okay, so that connection was always there, growing with him. No wonder she was so hard to get rid of. What about Harry, though? How does he fit in?
Harry, that was an accident. Not planned at all. A result of Voldemort's arrogance and magic backfiring, really.
But the theory still says there was that emotional connection, right?
It's complicated. But yeah. Voldemort's fear of dying, his relentless pursuit of Harry, it created a bond, even if he didn't mean to.
So it wasn't on purpose, but the magic still saw that strong emotion and latched on.
Exactly. And that might be why Harry wasn't, corrupted by it. Not like Ginny with the diary,
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about the why and the what of Horcruxes, but what about destroying them? It's not as easy as just smashing them, is it?
You got it. It's all about breaking that connection, that bond between soul and vessel.
So even if you, completely obliterated the object, the Horcrux could still hang on.
It could, yeah. You got to sever that link, that magical emotional link. Imagine, cutting a branch off a tree.
Okay.
The branch is gone, but there's still a scar. Right?
Wow, that's a great way to put it. So what can actually destroy a Horcrux?
Something incredibly powerful, something that can rip apart that magical bond.
And in the books, we see two things used: basilisk venom and fiend fire, both incredibly destructive.
And they both have that ability to sever the connection, to free the soul fragment so it can be destroyed.
This is making me think, with this whole idea of a deep connection, could Voldemort sense his Horcruxes? Like, know what was happening to them?
Now that's where things get really, really interesting, and that's what we'll be diving into next time.
Oh man, I can't wait. There's just so much to unpack here. We've covered a lot, but I can already tell there's so much more to explore. So stick around as we dive even deeper into the world of Horcruxes.
So you were asking about Voldemort sensing his Horcruxes. This theory, it suggests it wasn't just a one-way thing.
Ooh.
It's like there's this link, this flow of energy and information between him and those soul fragments.
So he wasn't just hiding pieces of himself, he was creating this network, like a web of consciousness.
That's the idea. And we actually see this in the books, right? Remember when a Horcrux was destroyed? Voldemort, he felt it. That loss, like something was disrupted.
Right, and he could communicate through them too. Ginny Weasley and the diary, that whole thing.
Exactly. He was influencing things through that connection.
Yeah.
So what if destroying a Horcrux, it's not just breaking a link, but like disrupting a whole system?
Okay, now that is creepy. And wouldn't that make them all weaker? If one goes, does the whole network kind of, I don't know, become unstable?
That's a fascinating question. The theory doesn't really say for sure, but it does make you think, right, about the risks Voldemort was taking.
Yeah, like his whole quest for immortality. Maybe it made him more vulnerable in a way. He put so much faith in those Horcruxes. If they started to crumble, wouldn't that mess with him? Magically, mentally, the whole deal.
It's a great point. Imagine that backlash, losing those connections. It would be devastating.
Mm. And, it makes me think about where he hid them, too. Those places weren't random, were they? Full of magic, history, strong emotions, like that cave by the sea or the chamber itself.
And it's so interesting because the theory actually suggests those places might have played a part in making those Horcruxes stronger.
Really?
It's like an extra layer of enchantment on top of the connection he already had with the object. You've got this ambient magical energy from the location itself.
So a Horcrux hidden somewhere really intense, like a place of sorrow or powerful magic, that'd be way harder to destroy.
That's what the theory is saying, yeah. And it makes sense. Magic is all about energy and tension.
Mm.
And these places, they're brimming with it.
So Voldemort wasn't just picking objects. He was choosing locations to boost their power, make them even harder to get rid of.
It seems that way. He was a planner. Calculating, always in control. That was Voldemort.
Man, this is like a twisted magical puzzle, isn't it? It's not just splitting a soul. It's everything. Intent, emotion, the place, this whole network.
And that's why this theory is so cool. It makes you think beyond just the dark magic itself. It's about the bigger picture, the things Voldemort maybe didn't even consider.
It makes you wonder, did he really get it? Did he understand what he was messing with? Or was he so afraid of dying that he didn't think about what could happen?
Well, that's a question for the philosophers, I guess.
Yeah.
But from a purely magical point of view, it seems like he might have been playing with fire, so to speak.
And this brings us back to Harry. His situation was, well, different from all the others. He was a person, not an object.
Exactly. And not meant to be a Horcrux in the first place.
Yeah.
That opens up a whole new can of worms. If Voldemort could feel the others, could he sense Harry? Feel what Harry was feeling, thinking?
Okay, now that is scary to think about. I mean, we know Harry could sense Voldemort, that weird link they had, but Voldemort being in Harry's head, that's a whole other level.
And it gets even more complicated when you remember Lily, Harry's mom. Remember how important that emotional connection is?
And her love for Harry, sacrificing herself for him, that was powerful magic.
Incredibly powerful. So how did that play into things? Did it somehow shield Harry? Protect him from Voldemort getting in too deep?
I've never even thought about that. Did Lily's love change how that Horcrux worked? Something Voldemort didn't see coming?
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
And that would explain why Harry's experience was so different from, say, Ginny's. Lily's love might have been the wild card Voldemort never considered.
So he tries to cheat death, tries to control everything, and he might have created his own downfall. He underestimated love, underestimated people's strength, the fact that magic, it doesn't always go as planned.
And that's the big takeaway here, I think. Magic, Even dark magic, it's not simple. There are always layers, things you can't predict, forces even the most powerful wizards they can't fully grasp.
It's kind of wild to think about just how much goes into these Horcruxes. I mean, we started with this idea of like, evil wizard splits his soul, but now it's this whole like web of stuff, Intent, emotions, the place, all these things he didn't plan for. It really makes you appreciate how deep the magic in this world goes,
Yeah.
how much we still don't know.
It also shows you how important perspective is.
Right.
We tend to look at magic from our human point of view,
Mm-hmm.
what it can do, how it affects us right now. But this theory is saying there's this whole other side to magic, something deeper, with consequences that go way beyond what we can see.
It's like we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg and suddenly realizing how huge the rest of it is.
Mhm.
We're so focused on what magic can do, we forget to ask what it asks.
And that brings us to this big question at the heart of this theory. What is a soul? If it can be split up, scattered, but still connected somehow,
Right.
what does that tell us about who we are?
And, we've been talking about this as dark magic, but these questions, they go way beyond Voldemort. They're about all of us. I mean, if our souls are more complicated than we thought, what does that mean for the afterlife, reincarnation, even just the idea of self?
Makes you rethink things, right? We like to think of the soul as this one thing, whole and pure. What if it's more flexible, more changeable than we thought?
It's like this theory opens up a whole bunch of questions we never even considered about life, death, what it means to be conscious. It's kind of overwhelming, actually.
And that's what's exciting. It pushes us to face those big mysteries,
Mm.
to look at life, death, consciousness, and ask what we really know.
We started with Horcruxes, but now we're talking about what it means to be human. And that's what I love about these deep dives. You take one topic and it can lead you to all these bigger ideas.
It's about being curious, about looking deeper, making those connections, and knowing that there's always more to learn, always more to discover, more to question.
So what's sticking with you? What are you going to be thinking about after all this?
For me, it's what this theory could mean for how we see magic as a whole. If our intentions, our emotions, are so powerful in dark magic, what about other kinds of magic? Could that help us?
Yeah.
With healing, creativity, understanding the universe.
Those are amazing questions. And it makes me think this whole deep dive, it's shown us that magic isn't just spells and potions. It's about the power of our minds, our hearts, the connections we make.
And those are things we all have, right? Wizard or not. So in a way, by looking at this dark magic, we've learned something about what we're all capable of.
And maybe that's the biggest lesson here. This wasn't just about Voldemort and his messed up magic. It was about understanding ourselves.
It was about realizing how everything's connected, the balance between life and death, and the incredible potential inside each of us.
That's a good place to wrap things up, I think. We've gone deep into this Horcrux stuff, faced some really weird concepts, and hopefully come out the other side with more questions than answers.
And as always, we want you to keep exploring. Read that paper, go back to the books, and see what you think.
Because the best discoveries are the ones you make yourself, right?
Yeah.
So keep asking questions, keep searching, keep that curiosity alive.
And until next time, may your deep dives be insightful, and may your souls stay whole and Horcrux free.
We'll see you on our next adventure.